Hello, thank you for being with us. Welcome everybody to the second appointment of our public program. We are especially honored today to have our guest to discuss something that we strongly believe, so the power of a network. Design is a cultural industry, it's our cultural industry. We strongly believe that the most sharing ideas, different points of view and knowledge of each other we have, the more powerful and effectful and meaningful we can be. Of course, we will speak about meaningful design here, and this is also the main pillar of Salone itself. So thank you to Fahad, to Noura, and to Sali for being here with us today, and enjoy the second public program. Sorry, I forgot to mention, very important, who am I? I'm the Cultural and Editorial Director of Salone del Mobile. My name is Annalisa Rosso. And after the speech, I'm very honored to have a book signing here at the Coraini Mobile bookshop. That it's also mobile as Salone del Mobile, but mobile because we are always moving around. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hi everyone. Buongiorno a tutti. Assalamu alaikum. And we are very pleased to be here with Fahad and Noura to have this conversation about Arabic design. So I think what is really interesting is that for the past decade, we have noticed type of a shift in the narratives, as Arabic design now is not just a category, it's not just something relating to an event, it's a whole movement. It's a whole movement with transformation, with impact, and we are not now, at the margins of a narrative. We are building up the global narrative with all regions of the world. And to understand this and to understand how design is now, today, happening in the Arab world and how we are actively promoting it and defending it and exhibiting it in our different projects, I wanted to start with Fahad Al-Obaidali, the director of Design Doha, to understand where this vision came from in developing a platform for design in Doha and Qatar, and also for the whole region within the exhibition. Fahad.
Thank you, Saeed. I would like to pass my gratitude to Annalisa for giving us this platform to be here in Salone, in Milano, the hub of design, that all of us, we make sure in every year we have it in our calendar. So thank you so much for having us. Building on the story, like how we started the conversation, it's about it's a movement. Because I think for a long time, I was in the creative industry for the last 14 years, and I never really saw a platform that actually articulate and communicate about the narrative about the, I would say, a region, like the Arab region, in terms of the design aesthetic, what we stand for, how we make, how we celebrate, how we share our creativity. So Design Doha came as a platform to celebrate that, because we didn't create it, it's there. Just that we made a focal point, that global stage, that the Arab center, the Arab design at the center. So that I would say the mission.
Because also, what would you think, maybe you and Noura as well, of the importance of having projects within the Arab world to promote the artists, to promote the artisans, because it's not only about designers, it's also craftsmanship, it's also the heritage from the whole region. We are talking from Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, to different countries in the Middle East. Maybe sometimes we are also considering South Asia in our MENASA region in the scope. How, for you too, was it important to build this narrative from this place and not from an international type of institution that could work with us, or that could put together an exhibition or a platform for a designer?
I mean, I think when you talk about such a large region that has so much diversity, it's also important not to want to be too hastened in flattening or drawing conclusions. So I think one of the main challenges was to represent the diversity of a region, like you said, that spans from Morocco to the Arabian Gulf, and not to try to kind of portray, I think, too simply in a way that we would want to represent it in a very direct way, And I think that's perhaps the difference when you start holding these exhibitions locally within the Arab world is that different narratives start emerging that perhaps elsewhere wouldn't emerge. And I think, you know, what's really important that Design Doha Biennale is doing as a platform, and specifically the Arab Design Now exhibition that's held every 2 years, is that through the work of this exhibition and through the portrayal of the multiplicity and diversity of creation around the Arab world, we're also starting to give it the multiple definitions and nuances that it deserves.
If I may add, it's, I always go to the value proposition of the region. What you can export tomorrow. And I think our region has like a beautiful opportunity to talk about ancestry knowledge, how our grandfathers and mothers, like they used to build their villages from like the ground to have to build, I mean, scale up to the building architecture and stuff like that. And I think biennial role, I think it's to kind of like talk about how we are preserving those knowledge in terms of making as a system, and then how you articulate that as an object. Like what kind of economical value we are trying to preserve, and how I actually am passing to the global design community as well. So I think that is like the Arab Design Now, I would say, from the 2024 edition, it was like more about like surveying, and Noura, she now dived deeper in terms of the making, the process, the authorship and stuff like that, which she will talk to you about it right now. But every edition of the Arab Design Now actually will go deeper in the conversation.
You were mentioning the survey of 2024. Can you share with us maybe a surprise that you had when you traveled all these countries and you've seen all these designers and all these projects? Is there one that you were really keen to and you were like, okay, this is a great surprise, I couldn't think of it, I didn't know this was here, but this is interesting and we're going to defend this?
It's unfair, I cannot have one project. But I think what Noura Rana Beiruti, the first curator for the Arab Design Now, what she did, it's a survey. What's happening right now in the Arab region? Who is who? What the design aesthetic? Because before we start Design Doha, everyone was asking me when I was in Design Miami or here in Salone or Musée Objet or Shanghai Design Week. I was meeting with board members, the directors of those. It's like, we are starting design platform in Qatar and stuff like that. It's like, oh, can you tell me more about what Arab design is? And that's actually where the name came about. Because I was like Arab Design Now, because it was a response to a gap. Like we felt there is something missing from the design, the global design communication. But to go back to the Arab Design Now 2024, I think it was about the culture of confidence. Like when I was talking to those designers and I was going to the exhibition, I felt like they were so confident and so pride. Like there is pride, there is authorship, there is ownership about their, like Slima Naji, an amazing architect from Morocco. She is following vernacular architecture. And then you see how she's actually brought all the artisans from Rabat to come to Qatar for the first time, leaving Rabat for the first time and working from our land. So it's almost like a relationship between our material, land material, and Morocco. And that beauty, to be honest, I didn't like, it was really something, I'm talking to you and I have, because it's about the making. Artisans, it's about the land, it's about our heritage, it's about their story. And then when they finished the exhibition, the piece with Salma Naji, they came to the opening and they saw how glam it was. It was the center. All the media were there. Everyone taking photos with them and stuff like that. And it's almost like they become celebrity in one day. I hate this word, but Abdurrahman from Design Doha, he keeps saying, how to make craft fashionable again, in a way. Like how to make it sexy, in a way. So I think Design Doha in 2024 was able to make those artisans and craft to look at their career as actually prestige. It's not something else.
And you're mentioning craft. Maybe, Nora, you can tell us more about the importance of craft and the importance of transmission in the curatorial project that you put together for Arab Design Now. What is your perception of these different crafts that go through the region and the problematic of transmission as well?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's obviously been, not only in the Arab world, but in design in general, and you know, a renewed interest in craft for many reasons. I think specifically for Arab Design Now 2026, what we try to look into and to understand a bit deeper is, you know, the relationship with crafts and landscapes and materials and know-how, and how this really translates into an attachment to a specific place. And so we really looked at it, you know, from that angle of understanding the specificity of a place through the resources that it provides, and what this has developed in terms of know-how. But looking at craft not only, you know, as something that is a closed system in itself, but looking at the intersection of craft with community, with technology. And I don't think, you know, that these things need to be looked like as binaries that are on either side, you know, of the spectrum of production. To allow, you know, specifically these nuances. You know, crafts today, as it did, you know, a long time ago, is very interconnected with technology. You know, it's the act of making. So it's maybe trying to go beyond these first kind of primal understandings of a region, you know, through a millennial craft, but really understanding how is that working today, you know? And it's often not as romanticized as we would imagine it. So for this edition of Arab Design Now, you know, under the title of Foreground and Contexts, we've really tried to have a bit of a deep dive into the specific context in which design is being produced in the Arab world. We've worked alongside the designers with videographers and photographers to really give a kind of expanded lens into how design is being produced, why it's being produced, you know, what are the political motivations of making design, what are the ideological you know, ideas of designers, and really, you know, introduce kind of two tempos in the exhibition. The physical objects, which of course, you know, are still the prime focus of the exhibition, but in the background there's always this kind of window into the world and to the specific context of the designer. You know, once again bringing in a more nuanced understanding of how we perceive these things.
Thank you. And you're mentioning innovation, and also how does it imply having a new maybe structure or a new way of working with this craft and working with these designers. How can we help them with this? How can we put together, you know, all the conditions for them to reach this innovative structure, for them to, you know, keep on being creative and not only rely on heritage and not only rely on the romanticized type of knowledge?
You know, I think specifically in the context of the Arab world, there are maybe somehow less opportunities for design to be commissioned. So we really looked at the exhibition, the Arab Design Now, as a platform for experimentation and production, you know, as a way of, first of all, giving means and resources to designers to develop projects that are not commercially driven, you know, that don't need to even have a fixed outcome in terms of what they're producing in the end, but really, you know, speaking with them, asking them what they were interested in, what project they always dreamed of doing, and giving them the time and the means to produce this over a year and a half, and using really the Arab Design Now as a platform for, you know, commissioning and experimentation and discovery. And I think this is, you know, one of the most valuable things that you can do for a designer, and then giving them the visibility, obviously, that the Biennale offers.
I would like to add as well, like I think what genius in the 2026 Arab Design Now, in my opinion, Noura didn't stick only about objects as a way of communication, photography, film. She commissioned 16 film, if I'm yes, 17 new films. With the process, the making, which community we are talking about, and how they represent themselves, because representation is everything, I think, in my point of view, in terms of like how to communicate about who you are and your identity. I will share just a quick story about like a film. It's called You Will Die in Your 20. It's by a Sudanese filmmaker. It's actually on Netflix. You can watch it, by an amazing filmmaker from Sudan. And he focused about the Sufism rituals, and how it influenced the architecture language in Khartoum. And, you know, through even rituals, how that actually impacting the way you think about space. and how that we articulate in terms of their practice and the way they pray and the way I would say, rituals when they have newborn and stuff like that. So the more we dig, I think, with Arab design now, we dig into rituals and stories and way of living. And I think that is like where I go back to this first point I was mentioning, preservation. How we are preserving this. Is it data collection? Is it through film and photography? Is it by oral histories? And then how you can actually archive it and give it access to the global communities. They can get inspired, and actually we can carry this earth that right now we are in a critical situation.
I think maybe just to add on to that, I think that the narrative component is really important. And maybe, you know, specifically in the Arab world, one of the issues we face specifically in the media is that we're not often afforded our context. You know, things appear kind of out of context. We're probably also one of the region of the world that is the most stereotyped. So it was really important to bring in these layers of narrative, of nuance, of diversity, of plurality, and to be able to represent all of these within the exhibition.
Maybe you can share more about how do you use these platforms. You are mentioning like video platforms or social media, or then we have the book signing. So there's also the edition, the print. For you, how can we use in a clever way this platform specifically for these designers within the region, of course, but also worldwide? Because what I'm hearing is that we are creating these narratives that are existing, but we're shaping it in a way that we can actually promote them and share them with the world. And I think what's so interesting in our region is also that we are so welcoming in a way, that people actually like to come, they like to stay with us, they like to discover the culture once you're there, and once you meet these designers. But how can we do more and for the designers to come, for them to be, supported in their narrative, in publishing them, in editing them, and in promoting them online, for example?
Maybe I can start. I think this was specifically, I think, one of the starting points of integrating videography and photography into the exhibition. It was also thinking about the way that we visit and consume exhibitions nowadays, and that, you know, there's a certain percentage of people that will visit it physically, but there's a much larger number that will only see pictures of it through social media and so on. And so the idea was to think that how can we communicate this exhibition not only through its representation, but through means that can actually expand the understanding of the themes within the exhibition. And so these short films and the photography that we commissioned were very much thought also that it was mediums that could translate really well into social media, into a website, and that what you would see was not only a reproduction, a picture of the exhibition, but actually you could have an insight into the deeper layers of the design and the projects and the themes that were included within the exhibition. And I think, from a curatorial point of view, it's a really challenging and interesting aspect to think about, that we are now in an era where the physical and the virtual exist side by side. And I think we also need to challenge ourselves in what that means and how we think of the physical experience.
If I can add, it's because for me, visibility is everything. Like in terms of like how we are actually including the designers, and I think that's why 2024 was surveying. We didn't want to have a theme. We didn't want to have like artistic direction, because we felt if we say it's about eco-friendly or whatever, some designers will not feel included, or some designers will feel like, oh, it's not mine, it's not my place. So that's why we felt like everyone's welcome. You have an idea, come, communicate it with us. We didn't know what we were doing. And it's okay, we can figure it out together. And I think because of that system, how we started, we were able to carry on that legacy in terms of like being accessible. Like we were accessible, someone can call me on the phone and stuff like that. I'm like, we have beautiful programs for you. We have the exhibition programs that you can partner with an institution to participate in the biennial. And we have Design Doha, the Public Design Commission, if you want to do outdoor furniture, like benches, shading systems, stuff like that, that you can leave behind in Qatar and as a legacy for you when you're walking around the city. The third program, Design Doha Prize, which actually we award, cash award for designers, and then you have residency and the networking event. So we kind of created an ecosystem within the biennial that no matter where are you right now in your design career or journey, you can fit. And this way, like, we can keep our eyes on you. Let's say if you're in the residency, when you graduate, you have an amazing idea, we can take you to the prize. If you win the award, then maybe you will be considered for the Arab Design Now exhibition. So there's a whole ecosystem, I call it the design journey, that actually we created to make sure we have a mechanism.
And also because you're talking about this ecosystem and this, you know, and I like this movement because I think it's also interesting that we consider the impact on the public. And how do we inspire the public to be closer to design, to be more interested maybe in this type of narratives, how they can visit an exhibition and then remember something from their family, from their heritage, something that's so close to them. For you, how navigating through these exhibitions, navigating through this new social media, how can we have this public interested, it's a thing, but also really, you know, concerned and supporting at some point of these initiatives? How could we do it better?
That's a good question. I mean, I think the question of accessibility is really important, and also I think I was careful when we first started contacting designers and thinking of curating the show, not to want to impose themes that I thought were kind of relevant or visible on designers, but really first understand, you know, the broadness and multitude of themes that the designers were looking into, and then trying to see what commonalities and what similar attitudes were emerging. And these attitudes, you know, don't appear in isolation of the world of design. You know, they are connected to what happens in our day-to-day in the Arab world. You know, they're connected to political events. They're connected to issues of environmental catastrophes, you know, that are upcoming. And so they're things that everyone feels and relates to. And I think, you know, this is somehow also the power of a well-curated exhibition, is that, you know, as any visitor that comes, not one that's only specifically interested in design, there is a hook that you can relate to somehow, you know, in what you're feeling as an Arab in your day-to-day. And through these hooks, you then can delve deeper into, you know, the methodology and the interests of different designers and the way that they are, with similar feelings, developing a body of work that speaks to a broader public. And I think, you know, that is the success of good design.
Going back to your point about like how we do it, the mechanism, in Design Doha Prize, we have jurors, buyers, platform directors, collectors, hospitality collectors, commissioners. That actually they're reviewing the applicants. We had 750 applicants. They can see like, okay, this person will be good for this hotel or this project or whatever, even if they didn't win. Just to have that access, to be honest, is amazing. I shared this story before, but I will share it again because it's my favorite story. Like, when we did the inaugural edition, I was in the panel discussion, and the first question was, what's the legacy of Design Doha? And I was like, it's the first day, it's the first hour, what legacy you're talking about? So I didn't know what to answer. I was like, ask me this next year or something like that. But I don't know if you've been in Qatar, there's a creative hub called M7. The stairs take you all the way down, and there's a huge, like, 2,000 square meter cafe space. And while I'm going down after the talk with my assistant, we saw like Arab designers sitting with Patrick from Paris Design Week, with Gabrielle from Azole, having their iPad, showing them their product, debating and stuff like that. David from Perfect Future Gallery Manhattan. So I hold my assistant hand, I'm like, do you remember that question upstairs, what our legacy? That our legacy. The connection have been built between global and local. That's main things, because I feel like it's a natural thing, it's a human thing. So when you see someone and like you kind of validate them in a way. You don't need the validation, and that's why what I liked about Doha, like Thomas brought validation home, but at the same time it was about, I see you, you matter, I like your product, let's start conversation. So I think strategically thinking who's your partner, like with our situation, like Salone, they were always supportive, Mr. Lawrence and stuff like that. Those partners that you want to surround yourself with, that actually give access, want to work with you, want to welcome you and welcome like the creative production that you have. And I think goes back to the conversation I would like to close it with, it's basically strategic selection, curation of partners. Who's around you and who's ethical and really want to work with you.
What's interesting is that we talk a lot about how they can come to Arab region, the public, to discover, to have this experience, to meet with the designers. How can we take the exhibition elsewhere, over the world, so that the people actually don't have to fly and they can also have this experience? And I'm mentioning this also because, as we know, we have a lot of communities, for example, in Europe, in North America, that have their roots in Arab region countries. And I think this is also something that's interesting, and I would love to have your opinion on this, because what's your take on creating these narratives and having them meet this diaspora of people coming from the region, whether it is from Lebanon, whether it is from Algeria, from all of these countries that are now in, some people from the diaspora in Europe, in America. How can these exhibitions meet them as well?
We were fortunate in Qatar. We have a program called Years of Cultures. And every year since 2012, we partner with a country where we do exchange, exhibitions, residency, programs, through all disciplines, photography, film, etc. And we did that with Morocco in 2024, which was the Year of Culture with Morocco. So we took designers from our region, or in Qatar, to Morocco to work with artisans, craft, and produce collectible design. And it was exhibited at the Museum of Islamic Art in the main, I would say, IMP, like, I don't know, iconic building in Qatar. In 2026 is the Year of Culture with Mexico. So we're doing the same thing. We're taking them to Mexico, to Oaxaca, San Miguel, Meride, and stuff like that to access those markets. And the end of it will be an exhibition. So I think, like, we were fortunate with that program to take the exhibition abroad. And now, actually, we shifted our focus more with Arab Design Now. It's already a brand. It's an exhibition that we own, it's curated, and it can travel around the world. And we actually, maybe Noura, you can talk about your vision for it as well.
You know, I think what's also quite special about the Arab Design Now, I mean, specifically maybe for this edition, is that it's 99% nearly commissioned work. So it's really work that has been specifically commissioned for this exhibition that hasn't been shown elsewhere. It's a collection of 86 designers, more than 120 design objects. And so it is an amazing opportunity to start this conversation with the world, and for this exhibition to be able to travel in different places alongside the Year of Culture initiative, but also, you know, other exchange initiatives. You know, I think, like you said, Saeed, at the start of the talk, the Arab world has always been extremely connected to the world. And it's been, you know, in and in itself, a region of a lot of migration. And so this question of, you know, exchange and collaboration is really quite inherent within us. And I think it is an incredible conversation that we're now able to deepen and enhance with the world through this exhibition.
Just to mention, last year we did a collaboration with Triennale Milano and their 24th international exhibition, where we took one of the commission for Arab Design Now, like architectural installation, in the main garden of Triennale Milano. It was such a beautiful scene to see, like, and Anastas and Yusuf, like, they were there, they were celebrated, and just like to understand, like, their project, to see it in a global stage, especially in renowned like museum like Triennale Milano, was like I would say a statement. So again, like, it always go back to my question about strategic selection or curation of who's your partners anyway.
And to wrap it up, because we only have like 2 minutes remaining, just one subject that is really important for me. It's education. How can, like, because we have now this incredible platform, we have all of these initiatives around the Arab world with different countries being very specific today and very active in defending designers, defending craft. How can we make sure that education follows, that education is actually here to support the system and to actually prepare the next generation of designers, of curators, of managers that will have museums, art centers, etc.?
Yeah. I was thinking the same. So in Design Doha, we have Design Doha residency program, which is actually the residency, it's based on curriculum. that about how to take vernacular material and experiment with it to make it collectible design. So this method of thinking or like system that actually is not kind of preserved or documented. So the residency will use it as an educational tool. Like actually we have here with us designers from Qatar. They are actually part of the design bootcamp with Trinale Milano. So they had access to that. You know, like all those residency design bootcamps, it come out as curriculums that can be adopted by academia. We can share it with the universities from design and stuff like that. So this is one form of, I would say, documentation for educational purposes. But Arab Design Now publication book, I had the chance to read the 2026 today. I had it in my hand finally. It's a complete educational tool. It's not only about like object or thinking or systems. It's about national identity through making. So I would say there is so many different, I would say, method, but the main one, to be honest, I think we need to tackle is to how to bring designers studying design and architecture to love the idea of like making. Because this is what we're lacking right now. I know everyone's going with AI, robotic direction and stuff like that, but there is something sophisticated about making with your hand, with your thinking. You put like, I don't know, a mold in front of you and you play with it and see how things goes. Because that actually, like it's almost a therapy session, but at the same time, it reminds you that you are connected to the land you are part of as well.
Thank you. I think we're done. Maybe about the book, and then we go to the signing of.
But I would like to invite everyone to Qatar, 5th of November, for the Design Doha biennial official opening. Everyone is welcome.
And let's go to Koreani Mobile Bookshop. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone. Thank you, Fahad. Thank you, Nora.